Well, hello, my healing journey friends. It's Lauren, and today I'm coming to you from Arizona in this, along this beautiful healing stream. I'm in this little oasis in the middle of the desert, which is magical and hard to believe that it's the middle of the desert, but um, I'm here in Arizona on this kind of healing retreat. Um, I've been actively healing trauma for almost a year now, and this felt like a really good time to. This was really the perfect time to go on a healing retreat because I've healed a lot of trauma, but there's still lots to heal, and there's still a lot that I need to bring to consciousness, because really the base of this process is making the unconscious conscious. That's like this pivotal first step that takes some time, it takes some effort to figure out what are your unconscious beliefs about yourself and the world. What are the unconscious patterns and behaviors that are coming from those beliefs that seem logical, but they're actually coming from some wound that you have. When you only know one way of being, it's really hard to figure out what's coming from the wound and what's coming, what's just a good way to live or just the way you are. But I've experienced a lot of healing on this trip. It's been amazing. What I'm working on right now is learning how to let go. Because I don't think I don't think I really ever knew how to do that. And I'm trying to figure it out on this trip. And learning from these amazing spiritual people who live here in Arizona and practice here. There are so many alternative healers, holistic healers, spiritual healers here that it's really the perfect place to go, I think, to do some spiritual healing. And that's really what this is about, because our emotions are part of our spirit more than anything else. They're obviously connected to the body and our mind. But what is the self? The part of the self that it is? It's part of our spiritual self. And healing chronic fatigue requires that you heal your spiritual self. Chronic fatigue is an all-encompassing illness. It's your body, your mind, and your spirit. And to me, the spiritual side was something that was so, voodoo. I've never been religious, spiritual, anything my whole life until this illness. And it sort of required me to become so. To learn that actually the energetic side of you, the spiritual side, is crucial for your health. And I just had no idea before this illness, before I started healing emotional wounds and learning this aspect of it, that so much emotional healing actually comes with spirituality and understanding the bigger picture, that we're part of a greater force, a greater life force on this planet and in the universe. And a lot of healing can happen through that avenue. That's where most of my healing is happening. But it's causing healing on the physical and mental level, because that's the energetic side of us. That's where our energies, our bioenergetics are held. It's in this spiritual self. Hi guys. Sorry, I had to relocate because it was getting a little crazy down there. Kids playing in the water and couldn't really concentrate. So, um, no longer by that amazing river, but I have a pretty incredible view of some just incredible red rocks here. Let you take a look. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. I hope you were able to see them from what I just did. But anyway, I was talking about this healing trip, and one thing that has been shown very clearly to me, which I already knew, but it's always helpful to get a reminder of anything in this journey because it's difficult and it's long, and is that healing is not about a miraculous healing that's going to happen in a week, 9 days, or any really brief amount of time, because I have definitely had some healing on this trip. I've learned so much about ways of letting go, and gotten all kinds of confirmation of who I am, what my path should be, and that I'm on the right path. And that to me is very healing, because one of my wounds is I have a tremendous amount of self-doubt. I don't know if any of you can relate to having a lot of self-doubt, but it comes from having a wound around your self-worth, and feeling like you'll be accepted and loved if you are your authentic self. And that's a very deep wound for me, and something that I've really been focused on in my healing journey, and here as well, and the process of letting go of so many of the negative emotions, the negative energies that surround that one belief, because it might be only one belief, but from that one belief, it's so core to who we are, something like that, something about being lovable or accepted, or just worthy, and feeling a sense of belonging, and like you are worth taking up space. I don't know how many of you are used to shrinking, being as small as you can. That's the story of my life, and I'm learning how to be bigger and bolder. And unfortunately, you can't just know that and become bigger and bolder just by acknowledging that and being conscious of that. That's only the first step. So once you're conscious of that, then you can go in and start healing the wounds, finding where the wounds reside, where they came from, and then doing a lot of healing, which I go into more depth in other videos about. One thing that's abundantly clear, which I already knew because I've been on this journey for the emotional healing journey for about a year, is that this stuff doesn't heal overnight. It doesn't. There was a part of me that thought, I've done all this healing over the last year, healing so many wounds and core parts of who I am. Maybe all I need is this week of healing in this healing place with these healing people, these amazing spiritual healers and energy workers, and all these just incredible people who live here in Arizona, because it's just such a spiritual and intense energy place. I thought, maybe a week here, maybe maybe that's sort of the final push that I need. There was a part of me that knew that wasn't true, but there was another part of me that was really hoping that there would. And I have learned so much in a small period of time, and I've done so much in a small period of time because I've really been focused on that. However, I'm not healed yet, and that's a strange way of putting it, because what I keep trying to remind myself is that there isn't an end. There's not a last day of this. The healing journey is a life journey. Life is a healing journey. And because trauma is part of life, wounds are part of life. We all have trauma. We all have wounds. The question is, how are those wounds and traumas impacting you? If you feel good in your life, you're happy, you're healthy, you feel free to do what you want to do. You've got this light. You're on this. You're good, and you're feeling fulfilled. Then you're probably not watching this channel. Is the honest truth. But if you're not fulfilled, that doesn't necessarily mean it. But if you're not fulfilled, if you feel trapped by something, unable to do something you want to do, be somebody you want to be, if you feel trapped, unable to make a move in your life, shift patterns. Maybe you've been working on shifting patterns and behaviors for a long time, and no matter what you do, it doesn't seem like you work so hard on the mindset, which is where you want to be. The mindset is so important for changing behaviors. Oh my gosh, Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, I mean, they're two of my just incredible teachers, and they're all about mindset. The mindset is the most important thing for changing your behavior in your life. But to me, there's something deeper than that. And Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi talk about emotions. It's the emotions. But I think the emotional stuff goes way deep. And to me, and in my experience, there is a certain level, if you have a certain amount of, or a certain sort of flavor of trauma and wounds that are really core to who you are. They're in your first and second chakra. They're foundational to you. If you have really core wounds there, my experience, and that doesn't mean that I'm right, but my experience is there has been no amount of just mindset work that can get me to where I want to go. I have had to go deeper to heal the wounds, and once I start healing the wounds, the wounded part of me, then these little weights get lifted off of me. And at some point, I no longer felt like I was in a cage anymore. I felt like I was in a cage for so long. And I don't know if you feel that. At least 10 years I felt that. In an emotional cage that I could never quite put my finger on what it was. I just felt trapped all the time. And there was nothing trapping me. It was in here. I was trapped. I was trapped in here. And that is wounds. That is wounds. That is trauma. Because it constricts you and it contorts you and it shifts your path. It creates these obstacles. I heard on this trip a metaphor I thought was so cool about a river. And if you think of our lives as a river, it's this winding path, And in any river, there becomes obstacles. You know, a tree limb falls in the river and creates a diversion, little eddies. Beavers can make dams that can completely change the direction of the river. Just simple rocks falling in from the side, you know, the cliff and next to it, or whatever it is. Things change the path of the direction of the river sometimes. If they're big enough, they can change the direction of the river completely. And that's what trauma is to me. And that's what this guy was saying, basically. It was, you know, the trauma that we have in our lives can be so impactful that it can completely shift the trajectory of your life, of the river. And we can go so off course of the place that we were meant to go. And there's a place, we all have a place that we are meant, that we all have a life of purpose that we're supposed to lead. And I try not to say a purpose, a single purpose, because nobody has a single purpose, I don't think. It's a multitude of purposes. So to me, it's more about having a life of purpose. And we all have a life of purpose. And for me, astrology and numerology and all these things, you know, can help guide when you're so lost, when you've been going that way on a river because all this trauma, these tree limbs or these dams completely change the trajectory of your life, of where you were sort of meant to be. And I realized at some point, way down the path, way down the river, I can't do this. I feel trapped. I'm miserable. And I was sick. I was so sick. That's really what did it for me. Maybe this is where you are. Maybe you're so sick and you've looked with chronic fatigue and you've looked everywhere. You've looked in every corner of the universe. You feel like you can't. Where else is there to go? None of the things that people suggest and tell you is going to work has worked. And so you're at this point where you're like, well, now what's left? What can I try? That's where I was. That's when I started going into this emotional work, into healing trauma. And so when you're going over there, you're so far down that river, you're so far down that life path and it's so far from where you're supposed to be, that you eventually develop a chronic illness. This is how I see it. So the beautiful thing of this illness is the fact that when you realize that, the process of making your way back to the original path of your life river is the process of discovering your true self. And you know, I think I explain this a lot. I try to explain it in different ways because this is the crucial concept to me. And what I was saying in the beginning is one thing that I've learned here is that is so clear is that you're not going to have a miraculous healing. I wasn't going to have a miraculous healing here. I was going to make a lot of progress and learn a lot of things that are really important in a short period of time. And over the course of the next few weeks, I'll try to share some of the big things that I've learned here. But the biggest one that's coming to me right now is that this is a process. And one of the things that made me realize this is that it's nearing the end I'm on my last day of the trip, and you know, I still have digestive issues. I still have oxalate sensitivity. I accidentally ate something with soy, which has a ton of oxalates last night. I'm usually so careful, but I loosened the reins because there was some sauce and I didn't ask about what was in the sauce. and it got me. And I had a lot of oxalate pain, and it was just this reminder that you don't get to skip stuff. This is a life journey. This is a life path. This is about discovering your true self and healing all the wounds, and healing doesn't happen overnight. So from that, I started thinking about this way that healing is, to me, I think of it as a bunch of like sort of concentric circles. When you first start healing emotional trauma, you have to start with the big one, the really big one, the big one that's obvious, that doesn't take a lot of work to make conscious. Maybe, possibly, it might, but it's sort of this big thing that's been, you probably are going to start with the biggest thing, the thing that is most obviously holding you back, causing you the most emotional struggle in your daily life. You know, for me, it was my relationship with my dad, some aspects of that. And it was just so obvious because our relationship had been strained for years, very distant for years, and I had been in pain about it for many years. And so it was just sort of this, but I, at the same time, I couldn't really access the real emotions underneath the anger. And so it took a lot of work to uncover what that was. But at the same time, it was sort of the most obvious, because an obvious place to start. Because I knew, because trauma usually comes, I mean, a good place to start is your relationship with your parents and the dynamics that you have with them. Because our parents were our everything when we were 0 to 7, or our grandparents, or whoever you lived with, your caregivers, were our everything. The adults in our lives during those years were our everything, our survival. And so we depended on them for food, water, love, shelter, safety, it all. And we made conclusions about the world from our relationships with our caregivers. And so to me, the obvious place to start is parents. And if you've got an obvious issue in your relationship with one of your parents, that to me was the biggest place to start. So that was the biggest circle. That was the biggest, the most glaring wound that I needed to heal to start with. And what happens is, as you start to heal the biggest circles around the outside, only then is when the deeper layers are going to be present, are going to be able to be seen. You can't start from it's just like an onion, or any kind of comparison you want to think of. It's like, you can't, or I'm trying to think of a better metaphor than an onion, because you don't want to bite into an onion. But if you want to eat the core of the onion, you can't eat it first. You have to eat the outside first before you can get to the inside. So, with emotional wounds and trauma, you've got to go for the big hitters first before you're going to be able to bring the more subtle ones into consciousness. So such a foundational part of this process is, it's sort of the first big step, is this process is about first making the unconscious conscious. And so what I just described, what's sort of an obvious issue in your life, is going to be the easiest to put your foot in, where it's like, there is some unconscious stuff here, even though I'm having an obvious issue with this person, with this parent. There's unconscious stuff here because I can't even access it. I don't even know what the emotion is. Somebody asked me, what do you, I just want to say I'm annoyed. I'm just annoyed or frustrated, angry. There's something deeper. And so that's how you get your foot into the door of you start searching for the unconscious stuff when you can see the conscious. Well, then as you start figuring things out, having epiphanies, having, moments, realizations and meditations. There are all kinds of ways that you can, or just being as conscious as you can as you go through life. Suddenly you'll have a hit in the shower, or in a moment in nature, or talking to somebody about it. You'll just have this moment of realization, like, oh my God, that's it. And it's not just one, it's a bunch. It's a bunch of, this happens over months to make sense of a wound that you're not conscious of because it happened before your memory. Like if it happened before the age of 3, this stuff takes a long time because you're not really conscious. You don't have a distinct memory of something happening. And it's called little t trauma, where it's just sort of this repetitive message that you get from your caregiver over and over and over and over and over again that it affects the brain in the same way as big trauma does. Big T trauma, I mean. Over time, the wound can become really, really profound. So as you make more and more conscious, more and more that was unconscious, conscious, then the things you're now conscious of, you can work on healing. And once you do that, then the layers underneath there are going to be able to bubble up. And you're going to be able to bring more and more unconscious to the conscious and to heal it. In my experience, and there might be people, I know there are people who disagree with me, but for me, I don't know how to heal unconscious stuff without bringing it to consciousness, without making it conscious first. To me, this has been a process of making it conscious so that I can heal it using my cognitive abilities and psychological knowledge as a tool to do that, as well as mind-body practices and spiritual practices. I know there are ways. I know of ways that you can work with the body to heal things that are unconscious without ever making it conscious, but that has not worked for me. So I'm only going to speak about the things that have worked for me personally. Of course, that's what we all do, right? So it was just made abundantly clear to me last night, even though, again, I knew this, but it just needed to be reminded to me. Lauren, like, there are still a lot of things that are still unconscious for you. Being really focused on this healing journey for the last year, I would like to think that I have made all the big pieces conscious, but the truth is I haven't. There are still pieces that are unconscious, that I have not brought to consciousness, that I don't have a cognitive understanding of. There are parts of the wounds in me, and I don't know. I don't know where those wounds could either be in the both first and second. Probably both. I think still both. And I had some intuitive people tell me I had it on this trip. Yeah, basically confirmation of that I still have mother wounds and father wounds, both, that haven't healed. And obviously, because I still have chronic fatigue, I still have digestive issues, I still have, I'm not going to name them all. I still have lots of symptoms that go with chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue. But my gosh, are they so much better? They are so much smaller. The amount that these things hinder my life now is so small compared to once they used to be debilitating. And I don't know if that's where you are. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know where you are, how debilitated you are. I hope not extremely. But if you are, then I have to tell you, you have this beautiful journey ahead. Any of you who are going to embark on this, it's beautiful because it's tough. But aren't some of the best things in life hard and painful? Because what you get on the other side, knowledge and understanding and love and acceptance of your true self, I mean, and being able to connect with your soul and the next steps in your journey towards a purposeful life, towards your life of purpose. Is there anything greater than that? Is there anything greater than that, of feeling fulfilled and full of purpose and love and joy? And you just, when you get there, and I don't know if there, I mean, there's not a destination, I guess. It's like, but you start to be able to feel it and see it enough that you can act, and you can start moving towards your life of purpose, the one that brings you joy and fulfillment. And so you are getting ready to embark on the most incredible journey of your life, and it's all thanks to chronic fatigue. That's how I see it. Because I've said this before, but I was never, ever, 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 ever going to look there. I was never going to go there. I was never going to go deep into these wounds unless I had no choice. And I felt like I had no choice. Because my life had stopped. It was just like a big cement wall had been put in front of it. Can't go that way, can't go that way, can't go that way, can't we go up that way? The only way out is to start digging. That's how it felt. That's how it felt to me. So this journey is not an overnight process. I can promise you that. But I can also promise you that when you come from a place of chronic illness, every little bit of improvement in your health is worth whatever you had to do to get there. That's how it feels to me. Every little bit of healing is worth gold. Especially when you start to see, oh my God, this is helping. This is working. I'm actually getting better. I actually have more energy. I actually have better moods. I actually have more stamina in the day. I can do this. I can do that. I couldn't do that a few months ago. Then it gets really exciting, because then you get all this motivation. Then you get all this momentum, I should say. You get all this momentum because you're like, this is working. This is working. That's my yes. That is the universe is yes. This is that. That's the way. I'm going to keep going that way until the universe says no. Well, guess what? The universe is not going to say no to this. It's going to feel like it. In the moments when you're triggered, you feel like crap. You have a setback. In those moments, yeah, it can feel like the universe is saying no, but it's not. You have to just keep the longer picture in mind. The time frame of months, not days. And if you're healing this stuff, you will experience healing in your body. So this is a process, and I can't stress it enough. But once your life can start up again, it's a lot better. Once you can start working, once you can start having fun and joy in your life again, because you're able to feel that. Me, I was so numb. And there's still some numbness. I have a lot of heart chakra work to be done, for sure. I've been really focused on my root and sacral, which I still need to keep focusing on, and my throat. I've been really focused on my throat, because that was such an obvious place because I've just silenced myself my whole life and never spoken what I truly feel, want, never stuck up for myself, and that is no more. So that was one of the first things that I worked on healing. And I couldn't be making these videos if I hadn't. So the truth is, wherever you start, it doesn't matter. Whatever is hindering your life the most might be the place to start. What is the biggest obstacle keeping you from doing everything, keeping you from being happy, keeping you from, it's trapping you in some way, causing you the most pain in your daily life? That might be the place to start. Well, what is the wound there? Why do I feel trapped here? Is it fear? Fear is usually the thing that causes us to feel closed up and trapped in a certain area of our lives. All right, so why are you afraid? When did you get hurt? What's the wound? What's the wound underneath that fear? Where did it come from? That's the place to start. This is a process. It's a journey. And I will always keep calling it a journey, because that's what it is. Healing doesn't happen overnight. That's my message for today. Yep, that's my message for today. So I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.